Dr. Zakir, Assalamu alaikum. Wa alaikum assalam wa barakatuh. I am Junaid Mirza from Toronto, Canada. My question is that you say 80% of the Quran is 100% true and 20% is neither true or false. Can you give examples of things mentioned in Quran that are neither true or false? Thank you. What Brother Junaid from Toronto is referring to is when I speak on the topic of Quran and modern science, whether it's a talk or whether it's a question answer session, and when I prove about the various aspects of the Quran that is compatible with science, I always make it a point to say that Quran is not a book of science, S-C-I-E-N-C-E, but it's a book of signs, S-I-G-N-S. It's a book of ayats, and there are more than 6,000 ayats, 6,000 signs in the glorious Quran, out of which more than 1,000 speak about science, S-C-I-E-N-C. And the beauty of the Quran is there is not a single verse of the Quran which goes against established science. So based on this, I say that makes Quran compatible with science. And when people ask about certain things mentioned in the Quran which science has been able to prove or not, so I give them just an assumption that if we analyze the Quran today, out of more than 1,000 verses the Quran speaks about science, and if we analyze approximately, it's an approximate figure I say, that maybe 80% turns out to be 100% accurate as per established science. So if 1,000 verses are talking about science, and if you analyze 80% approximately, I give an approximate estimate, it can be 85, it can be 90% also, 80% of whatever the Quran speaks about science has been proved to be 100% accurate. And I've spoken in my talk, the Quran speaks about astronomy, the Quran speaks about water cycle, the Quran speaks about embryology, about biology, about zoology, about botany, and there are thousands of verses. Now, when we analyze, I say approximately 80% turns out to be 100% true, accurate. The remaining 20%, since science hasn't advanced, it may be 15%, it may be 10%, that since science hasn't advanced, science can neither say it is true, science can neither say it is false. So I say that this 15 to 20%, what science today cannot claim it to be right or wrong, my logic says when 80% is 100% correct, and not 0.001% from this 80% has been proved to be wrong, so my logic says, inshallah, God willing, even the balance 20% or the balance 15% will also be correct. So it is not a blind belief, it's a logical belief. Me as a Muslim, yes, Quran says I blindly believe. But I, as a medical doctor, as a student of science, I say this is a logical belief. When 80% is 100% correct, and not even 0.01% of the Quran has proved to be against established science, so my logic says the balance 20% inshallah will also be correct. So the question of Junaid is asking the question, which are those 20% of the verses of the Quran which science says it's not true, or neither it is false? There are many such examples. First, let us talk about those which science doesn't say 100% but high chances. For example, today science cannot prove that there is life besides this earth. But they are sending satellites and they are sending rockets in the space, and they say there are high chances that there will be life besides this earth. And the Quran says Allah has created the heaven and the earth and everything in between. So according to the Quran, there are creatures, there are living things on other planets, other places besides the heaven and the earth. But science hasn't proved now, but says there are high chances. For example, today, the scientists have given various hypotheses. How will the world end? And if you read in the Quran, Quran also says how the world will end. For example, Quran says the sun and the moon will join together. The Quran says the ocean will swell up. The Quran says the mountain will fall down and that ruin. Now, many of these statements of the Quran are hypotheses given by scientists that this is how the world will end. So neither the science is agreeing or disagreeing, but there are high chances what the Quran says will turn out to be true. I, being a Muslim, having faith in the Creator Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I believe all these verses are 100% accurate. What Quran is saying, high possibility tomorrow, the Quran will say it is 100% correct. There are many verses which science today is silent. There are many verses of the Quran on which science is silent. For example, Quran speaks about life after death. There is no scientific book which speaks about life after death. Quran speaks about heaven and hell. There is no scientific book which says that there is existence of heaven and hell. But because the Quran says, we agree. The Quran speaks about jinn. The Quran speaks about angels. Science doesn't speak about that. The Quran speaks about soul. Science doesn't speak about that. So these are various examples which science hasn't advanced so far. But because I'm a believer and I'm a student of science, I put this argument, a logical belief for the scientist, for the people of logic, that who believe in logic, that if 80% is 100% correct, and if 20% is unknown, neither true or false, my logic says that inshallah, even the balance 20% which science hasn't advanced so much to know, inshallah will also be correct. Hope this answers the question.